Start your week smiling with your friends, Kathy Zant and Michelle Frechette. It's time to get ready for some weekly motivation with WP Motivate. Happy Friday, Kathy.
Happy Friday, Michelle. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm not going to say I'm great. I'm not going to say I'm terrible. I'm okay. I'm holding my own. It's been almost 3 weeks since I got back from Work Camp Asia, and I'm still coughing, still having
Mm,
issues, still using my inhaler and nebulizer and all that. So I think it's just a slow heal. So I'm
yeah,
exhausted. And I think that being exhausted, because when you're coughing all night, you don't sleep well. Um, I think being exhausted can really play on everything, not just how your body feels, but your emotions and everything else. And I'm just like, man, I just want to go to bed.
yeah. I'm so sorry. That
Eh,
sucks. Yeah,
it
last year
is
I,
what it
s- I
is.
started wearing a fitness tracker to track not my fitness, but to track my sleep because I was
Mm,
realizing how stress was kind of piling on to me and that it was really telling of like how poorly I was sleeping.
yeah.
And now it's more of a fitness tracker. Now it's like, go girl, look what you're doing. So
Woohoo!
measurement is helping me like better be
Good.
aware of my body and I'm trending upwards in terms of health and in terms of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but when you're not sleeping, I read a statistic that when people decide to exit, uh
Yes.
that it's typically after a period of no sleep, like it can really screw with your brain.
I can understand that. I have always been an insomniac, and if I go to bed early, then I'm up super early because like 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, unless I'm sick or jet lagged or something, is what my body thinks it needs. And so
Mm.
I'll wake up if I usually go to bed around 2 in the morning, and I wake up around 7, so about 5 hours of sleep. Um, the other day, not last night, the night before, I was so tired. I was falling asleep on my couch at like 7:30, so I was like, I'm just
Oh
gonna go lay
wow.
down in my bed where it's way more comfortable than a couch. And I slept until 3, and then I was wide awake. Like just wide awake.
Wow.
And that day I was up from 3 till whatever time I went to bed again because my body doesn't think it needs more than that. And so I just wake up, and no matter what I do to try to go back to sleep, I just lay there thinking. So I get up and do other stuff instead. But
Thinking. Boy, I hate thinking in the middle of the night. I
right?
hate it. Like, you think you're going to solve all this now? No. But for some reason, 3 a.m. is my brain's favorite time to like, now let's talk about this thing. Like, what thing? It's sleep time. It's, as I like to tell my husband when he wakes me up in the middle of the night, it's shut the F up time. Like
Yeah.
it's or shut the F up o'clock. That's what I told him. I'm just like, no, this is not that time for a conversation. That goes for my brain too. It's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
STFU o'clock.
I'm
No
convinced
conversations.
I'm convinced that I do solve all my problems at 3 a.m., but I fall back asleep and forget what the solution was.
Oh man.
At least I tell
So
myself
so
that.
really all of the things that have gone wrong lately, this is all your fault because you didn't write it down.
Apparently so. Speaking of all the things that got wrong and emotions and stuff like that, man, I have seen so much negativity in our community, the WordPress community lately, whether it's on Slack channels, different Slack channels, whether it's on Twitter or just in talking to people. People are really down lately, and and sometimes I think that when you are experiencing, whether it's emotional crisis, maybe crisis is a little heavy of a word, but just depression or blues or whatever you want to call it, that sometimes it's easier to strike out at other people than it is
Oh,
to deal
yeah.
with your own stuff, right? And
Yeah.
so I don't know if that's what's happening. Like you and I were talking before we started recording, we got these eclipses. Like, talk about that. You were talking about that a little bit. Like, there's more. I
We
didn't
had a
realize there was more than one.
they always come in pairs. So there was a lunar eclipse on the 25th on Monday, like middle of the night. And then there's this solar eclipse that's happening on April 8th. So we're in eclipse season. And the same thing will happen in the fall. We'll have like a solar and a lunar eclipse.
Hmm.
And they show up in different areas. I've been watching it for, well, kind of watch those things.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, when eclipses are happening, a really brilliant astrologer told me, he says, so you've got the luminaries, you've got the sun and the moon, and they give the most light. But when they get blocked, you can see the stars. So you see the truth of a situation. So things get eclipsed
Mm.
out of your life that you don't normally, like things that are constant sources of light get
Mm-hmm.
eclipsed, they get blocked so that you can see the truth of a situation. So you might have, and I've noticed as I've been watching all of it, because I'm like, I wonder why there were all of these, you know, tons of older belief systems that when the
Mm-hmm.
eclipse happen, you're supposed to like, you know, things happen, or, and my husband's stroke happened around the time of an eclipse. Like all these things happen.
Oh,
My dog died in 2017 when that big eclipse went across the country. And so like I'm scared of them. So then I want to
yeah.
dissect them and figure them out.
I can
But
understand
I,
that.
we're in the middle of this time, and I think, you know, big things happen. The bridge collapse that happened, and there's so
Yeah.
much like stuff happening. Wars start, like all kinds of bizarre things. And I'm not like soothsaying or anything like that, but I think this is a time where people take stock of things and
Mm.
assess things. And I think there's a lot of, and I think there's a lot of people like, I mean, some of the negativity I'm seeing is, there's people wondering, is WordPress even viable as a, like, okay,
Yeah, exactly.
people are getting like super drastic about stuff.
Yeah.
Um, my whole thing, I'm just like sad because somebody said there's a dog that's been dumped in our neighborhood and I want to go save it. And I realize I can't save it. And so I'm crying about this dog and like hugging on my dogs, like, I
Yep.
can't save him. I've got to save you. I'm like, ah! I'm just a mess about that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
a friend's father passed, and I cried this morning about that. And I never even knew him, but just like I started crying.
Yeah,
I Tears
I
can be
get it.
good, right? Tears are
They
good. They're
they
cleansing.
can. Yep. They say salt water is good for the spirit, whether it's in tears or the ocean, or I don't know. There's a saying that says three things, and I don't remember what the third thing is, but yeah, salt is cleansing, and we need it to survive. Like you can't survive without salt. You don't want to do
Yeah.
it too much, but you can't survive without salt and water, and it's like a magic combo, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, it's one of those things. And like my dad died 2 years ago, and 2 years and 2 weeks ago, because I saw in my Facebook, hey, on this day, a
Mm.
beautiful thing I wrote. It was really poignant, and it was so beautiful I cried again this morning. So, hey, it's things like that, and I wrote in that post something along the lines of to be gentle with others, because we're still grieving long after you've forgotten that we had a loss.
Mm.
And I think that that's true for everybody in every situation. There are probably people who talk to you on a daily basis and don't remember what you're going through with caregiving in your home. There are people who don't remember that my dad died 2 years ago and that I still think about that sometimes, or that I'm dealing with ailing parents in another, a town over that I can't physically caregive for, which means there's monetary expenses and everything else. And it's there's you never know. People only show you their public persona most of the
Yeah.
time. It's our good friends and family members that sees the inside of things. It's just a good reminder to always be kind to others, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Kindness. And, you know, I don't know, whenever I see anybody going through something, it's just kind of like this there, but for the grace of God go I type of
Yeah.
thing of just
Yeah.
like, I could happen. Bad things can happen to everyone. And so I get
Hmm.
like super empathic and I'm like, I'm feeling it with them and have to watch myself sometimes because I do
Yeah.
empathize too much. But yeah, tons of people going through all sorts of stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just
so of course people are going to be, I don't know, I think we just need to give people space and trust
hmm
them
hmm
and leave that open dialogue. Let people have a little bit of steam off, but then at the same time, like invite dialogue because I think if you can help one person just kind of shift their perspective just a little bit, and you do this a lot
Mm-hmm.
for me, just like shift your perspective just a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and that that kind of gift is something that it comes back to us tenfold, you know, if you can help
Yeah.
somebody see, okay, it's not exactly how you know, you're not as
Yep.
limited as you think you are, or this
Right.
situation isn't as bad as you think it is. And
Yeah.
like having those opportunities for open dialogue where people can feel a little more freedom of movement and just in terms of how they see something can
Mm-hmm.
really be so instrumental.
And you make me think of the idea of safe spaces. I saw somebody from high school posted this morning that if you are a gay person and you're in the closet and that's your safe space, I'll guard the door for you. If you need one person to come out to, I will be that safe person for you. And that's not just about the LGBTQ community, that's all of us, right? So we
Yeah,
all have things that are raw for us that we keep inside because it's too raw to share to the world. There's
sure.
emotion, there's issues, there's whatever we're going through. And to have one person, like you're that person for me too, right? I probably have three people in this world that I could call up and say, I just need to talk. And they'd be like, all right, here's the Zoom, here's my phone number, here's whatever.
Yeah.
Um, no matter what time of day, that I could be like, "Whoa," just like let it all out to.
Yeah.
Um, to be that safe space for somebody else is a privilege. And to have somebody as a safe space is just such a blessing.
Yeah. You know, I heard something recently. I think it was Simon Sinek, you know, the
I
leadership
love
guy,
him.
because he's so cool. He's so cool. But he said something about how he and his friends have a code word because somebody said something about how it only takes 8 minutes of a conversation to completely shift somebody's mindset. And so
Mm,
he and his friends have a code word where they'll say, "Do you have 8 minutes?" And that's when his
yeah.
friends know, drop everything. I really need you. And
Yeah.
maybe we all need a little bit of a code word like that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
Other
we
than
have
just
eight
like
minutes.
Mayday, Mayday, Mayday.
Yeah, Mayday. Mayday. Yeah. Or something
911,
where,
Kathy.
because sometimes we do need, we're all, we are never, nobody's alone. But I know a lot of times, especially like with the digitization of communication being
Yeah.
so prevalent now, people feel really alone. But I'm only a
Yeah.
phone call away. I'm only a, you know, a TikTok share away. You know, it's like that close,
Yeah.
but it's still there's a distance there. It's not like being in the same room. It's not like
Hmm.
having a conversation. And I think maybe having a code word of like, hey, I need you, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, I'm sure there's a meme that goes here, but no, I just need you. I need you.
Yeah.
And we need that interdependence. We are interdependent people. It's why we're so afraid of being alone, you know? It's because
Hmm.
that is part of who we are. We are one, but we are all. I'm gonna start, you know, going into a song or something, but we're
No, but you're
we're all
right.
interdependent.
Absolutely. And I think about like it's so easy to share triumphs and wins and victories and happiness. It's
Mhm.
so much harder to share the struggles and the depression and the negative thoughts and those kinds of things because we're so afraid of being judged. Like when we're
Yeah.
judged for good things, it's always judged or 99% of the time, it's judged as something to celebrate. It's so much harder to open yourself up to being judged in a negative way. And that's why those
Yeah.
people that don't, that like, I may say something stupid and you may have a thought like, oh, Michelle or whatever, but you would never say that part to me. You would still like listen to what I have to say and help me talk through it or think through it in a non-judgmental way. When we all have immediate reactions to things, but that's not the same as being judgmental.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't share a lot of what's going on just because I know a lot of people can't handle what I'm
Sure.
going through.
Hmm.
Like, I don't need to go into details, but I'll just say the day before yesterday was 4 loads of laundry
I understand what that
for
means.
one person.
Right.
It was
Yep.
not a pleasant day.
I'm sure it was
Uh,
not. I feel like I need to
and
send you Febreze.
you know, I can't even really tell my kids about that because I don't want
It's
them
their
to be
dad.
burdened
Yeah.
with the idea of everything that I've had to
Hmm.
deal with. Just like, how, you know, how did this
Yeah.
happen? Like, I thought it was going to be a nice, easy, oh, good morning. What the heck happened in here? Um, Life
Yeah.
is just life is just hard sometimes. And I can't
Yeah.
really go into a lot of details with a lot of people because, you know, nobody wants to talk about that, right? But
Right.
it's part of life. And I'm sure there are other people there. I'm sure there's, first of all, I'm sure there's some people who are like, oh, like you, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I know what BS,
Yeah.
what compost you just went through. And then
Right.
there's other people who are just like, what are you doing, girl, allowing this
Yeah.
happen in your life? That's something you send to the nursing home. And, you know, that's just like, don't even, they can't even fathom it. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I just keep it a lot. I keep it a lot to myself because
Yeah.
that's just the way it is.
Well, it's
I
like,
know there's a
and
lot of people who have that. They feel like they
absolutely.
have to keep it to themselves.
And we do use code words anyway, right? Like the other day I was like, well, I'm having a little tummy trouble. Like, you
Mm,
know what it means when I tell you I'm having tummy trouble. Like, we all know what that
sure.
means, but nobody's going to say what that means, kind of thing. But yeah, the meds and everything else I've been on, it's like, it's not just that I'm coughing a lot, it's that I can't sleep, it's that my stomach's upset. Like, all of it goes together. And all I have to do is say, I'm going to be late, I have tummy trouble. And you're like, okay, I'll see you in 15
Yeah.
or whatever it is. Oh my goodness. And we do, I think humor is important. I think that we deal with a lot with humor. You and I said memes and TikToks and Instagram reels and things that just make us laugh out loud. But it's not just that surface stuff. And we understand between our friendship, we understand that there's so much more underneath that surface. I'm reminded of if you go to Corey Miller's Twitter account, you'll see he's had a pinned tweet at the top for a long time, and it's the iceberg. And he talks about mental health a lot
Yeah.
and how what you only see the tip, what is floating above the water in an iceberg is like, I can't remember exactly, but like 10 to 20% of the total thing. And the rest of like that's what we see on people is just
Yeah.
that little part that's sparkling and white and glistening in the sunlight, but it's what's underneath that water that's dangerous and tumultuous and just what makes up the human being and that's the part that we don't always share with everybody and yeah, we
Yeah.
need to remember that we're more than the 20% that people see and that others are more than the 20% that we can see of them as well,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think just when we're going through these big kind of shifts, the times where a lot of emotions are raw and people are, I think we just all need to give each other a little more compassion because
Yeah,
no, you don't really know what everybody else is going through or what, you know,
exactly.
somebody might be complaining about something with WordPress, but something's going on elsewhere, you know?
Hmm.
And, and
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of times I do think that well, my one of my guiding philosophies is that everything that happens in my life, no matter how crappy it is, I need to trust that it's for my highest good and for the good of everyone.
Hmm.
That even means the BS. That means the compost is good too, because
Yeah,
compost grows flowers, right?
it does.
So, a lot of this stuff, though, if we are not allowing it to come up, if we want to like put this veneer of happiness over our life and pretend that everything is okay,
Hmm.
it's like, it's so much work to
Yeah, it is.
pretend, just to pretend everything's okay and just like put on that happy face.
Truer words have never been spoken.
It's, yeah. Eventually, these things that we're trying to keep below the surface, that we're working so hard to keep down, eventually they're going to just pop up. And if we just let that happen, everything else starts to pop up too. It's like your
Hmm.
happiness starts to pop up. And it's like I was in one you know, my husband did NLP work with people, and so it was like therapeutic session, and there was this group session that was happening at our house, and this person was like going through immense tears and just like trauma, and then somebody cracked a joke, and they were the one laughing the loudest, and the guy who was leading the session said that your happiness is just, it's always there. The good stuff is always there. But if you're trying so hard to keep the sadness away or trying to be perfect and hold all of that back, your happiness isn't going to come out until the sadness can come out. So
Yeah.
I thought it, but just I saw it happening, you know, it was just like, whoa, and then
Yeah.
oh, they were laughing the loudest because it's just like they weren't allowing themselves to feel anything because they couldn't deal with the negativity. They couldn't feel the gravity of the hard things that they were going through in life was holding back all of their joy too.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I think it's going to come out anyway.
your happiness and sadness are a package deal.
Yes, they
They are.
are.
You got to feel them both in order to
Yeah.
not, yeah, because you're right. If you hold down one, you're holding down the other. It makes perfect sense. Yeah. And as somebody who deals with anxiety on a regular basis, I know that to be 100% true. I got to deal with all of it in order to
Yeah.
just deal with any of it. So, yeah, makes sense to me. Well, here's hoping for a lot fewer loads of laundry in your weekend ahead.
Better
That would be
be.
nice. That would be
Better
nice.
be. I will say he was hilarious because my son's coming down next week, and so I told husband that Max is coming for a visit, and he's like, "Oh, good. Well, if he's here, we might as well get married."
You gotta love that.
He's watching he's really really into Love is Blind right now. Like
Oh, uh-huh.
he's watched a couple seasons and he's like on it, right? So he's loving, and he's just like he's a big softy romantic. I loved, one of the things I loved about him is that he was like Mr. Tough Guy on the
Yeah.
outside, but heart of gold, and just like, but I see more of that now. So,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say like my life is completely horrible, because he's still just like Mr. Romantic, and just, yeah. So I might be getting married again next week. I just thought it was
I'll I'll
hilarious. It's
fly
just
I'll
like,
fly down and be your maid of honor.
hey. And see, of
You
course, me being the motivator, I'm like, if you want to get married, I would love for you to just like walk down the aisle instead of being in the wheelchair. Can we do some physical therapy? And that
Ooh,
that
let's
lasts for about
motivate.
5 minutes.
Yeah,
It's like, go
exactly.
away, I hate you. Okay, I
You
tried.
you sent me I think it was Reels on Instagram, but I see the same trend on TikTok all the time of these paint parties now where you're supposed to paint
Yeah.
your partner or paint your spouse. And first of all, where are these people coming up with all these easels? Like normal people don't have 5 easels in their house, but that's another story. But it's always like one person paints the other pretty well, and then they turn around and it's like I look like an ogre. Like, why? How did you make me look like I don't have 3 eyes? Like all of this kind of stuff. And I saw one that I'll have to look back through some of them and send some other ones to you. But you said to me, I wonder what Vicky looks like, and I died.
Well, the one I sent you, the girl, the woman she was so artistic, and she like made her husband like, he looked
Amazing.
quite good.
He
It was
did.
so wonderful. And that reel went on and on and on. And I'm like, oh, I got to see what happens with her. And she just looks like, I think, like a mangled Muppet, maybe. Like she
Yeah.
just looked horrible in his art. And I
My
was
favorite
like,
comment. She's like, "What did you do to my dimple?"
it was so funny. We're gonna have to post
Oh,
a link to that because it was so funny.
it was so
But yeah,
good.
and I
Yeah.
saw it and I'm just like, I mean, he can't even write his name properly right now.
Right.
So it's I was just wondering like what would my art wouldn't be that great, but his would be just like pretty comical, I thought. So
So get him to describe you. Put it into Dolly. I want to see what AI generates based on Mark's description of his
okay,
of,
that would be
well
funny.
of either Kathy or Vicky. I want to know. See if you can get that to happen.
So the woman who comes in every week and helps me make sure he gets showered and cleaned up and everything remembers her name every single time. Every single time remembers her name.
The
But
bastard.
the- I I can trick him into saying my name.
Mhm.
If I say I love you, Mark Ryan, he comes back with I love you, Kathy Zant, every single time. That
That's
pattern
nice.
never got interrupted, but just like everything else. Vicky.
The brain
So on
is
the
so
Netflix, when we're
bizarre.
going when we're going through Netflix, his name is Vicky. Like we just make it, you know,
I love it. I love it.
code name. Like if I say, Claire, can you go see what Vicky wants? Like we
Oh,
just
that's
like use. So
hysterical.
because the joke is if he can't call me my name, If my name's not Vicky and he's calling me Vicky, then
Then he can
his
be
name's not
Vicky.
Vicky. I'm gonna call you Vicky until you stop calling me Vicky.
I don't blame you.
So
I don't blame you. Well, whoever Vicky is, she's not getting paid enough.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, whatever your code words are out there, whatever you're experiencing, we do hope that you take some time to live your authentic self. Let some of it out. Let the negative out so you can let the good out too. But as always, just be kind to one another. Remember that other people are going through things you have no idea about and you don't even know the depths of. So Kathy and I talk about what we're going through, and I can't feel her emotions. I can only understand them, but I can't feel the depths of what she experiences on a day to day, and she can't experience the depths of what I experience on a day to day. And that doesn't stop us from having empathy and sympathy for one another and being there and being safe spaces. So be the safe space for somebody, find your safe space, and we wish you an amazing, amazing week. And I guess we'll see you next week, I hope, right? So thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been WP Motivate with Kathy Zant and Michelle Frechette. To learn more or to sponsor us, go to WPMotivate.com.